something about him. The way he looks, his eyes, the energy around him says murderous rage.
Wow. Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the mystery storytelling podcast with a clairvoyant twist. Radio Sydney presents Seeing Dead People, Episode 11. Who was Jack the Ripper? So, hello Darcy, how are you this evening?
I'm fine. How are you, Nicola?
I'm excellent, Darcy. I've got to tell you, I have been eagerly waiting to discuss these famous unsolved English murders practically since the first time we spoke. But before I go any further, I want to warn you and our listeners that we're going to be engrossed in some very disturbing crimes and seeing a few related graphic and distressing photographs. So heads up.
All right.
Today's the day, Darcy. We're going to head over that endless Atlantic pond and dive back into the late 19th century to the summer and fall of the year of our Lord 1888, the 888 year, deep into the twisted, crowded and dirty back streets of Whitechapel and Spitalfields, both districts in London's East End. It was a nasty area to live where overcrowding and poverty ruled, and robbery, violence, and alcoholism were rampant. So, Darcy, have you any initial tinglings about this case? Because it's got to be the most famous unsolved serial killer case in history.
Well, that only be one that I know of. I'm certain there's others I know, but I'm guessing London, the back streets, it will be Jack the Ripper.
Well done. Yes, we're going to find out tonight, Darcy, we hope, who was the real Jack the Ripper. Aha. So, I'm going to give you the names of 5 women, and then we're going to talk about them. So, our women are Mary Ann Nichols, Anne Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly. They are considered to be, unfortunately for them, the 5 women who were murdered by the person nicknamed Jack the Ripper. 4 of these gals were in their 40s, and one was very young in her mid-20s. I'll tell you a little bit about them. They had 6 elements in common. They were poor. They lived around Whitechapel and Spitalfields in London's East End. They were women. They were slaves to the demon drink. They were prostitutes doing business in the streets during the deepest of night hours. And they were mutilated and murdered during the period from August 31st to November 9th, 1888. They are, as I mentioned, considered to be the victims of the insane and murderous misogynist nicknamed Jack the Ripper. I say that because there are quite a number, surprisingly enough, murders that happened in the rough time frame before and after and during that, which some believe might have been Jack the Ripper, but the experts say there were 5 women who they are quite certain were killed by this one man. So despite a massive police investigation at the time, and of course countless reenactments, novels, movies, and even podcasts, the identity of Jack the Ripper is still unknown to this day. There are, however, 4 men who were and continue to be considered as the most likely of suspects. I must add that there are, as I mentioned, many more suspected of possibly committing one or more of these killings from all walks of life, including a famous poet, an English prince, and an abortion doctor. No one can prove that a single individual murdered all 5 women, but as you will hear, Darcy, the telling MO and the similarities of the manner of their deaths have experts convinced that yes, one insane and enraged man was responsible for these frenzied attacks. In this episode of Seeing Dead People, Darcy, I thought we would approach this fascinating enigma in our own unique way, one that I doubt has been tried before, and that is to have a talented psychic like you, Darcy, converse with the victims and the suspects in an effort to identify Jack's real identity. So, what do you think of that?
All right, I'm game for that.
Good. Have you ever thought much about Jack the Ripper in the past?
Well, I have to say, having watched the program once, I I would say that I've looked at it and thought, nah, I think they've got the wrong person.
Okay. Well, here's my game plan. I'm not going to go down the route of offering clues or details of the police investigations. Thousands of ripperologist types have pored over all that for decades. Instead, I'm going to briefly introduce you to the women, set up the scene for each of the murders, and then finally show you our lineup of suspects, all with the hope that you can glean new information that will lead us to naming Jack the Ripper. So, Darcy, are you ready to slip back in time to London's East End during the last half of that most dangerous year, 1888?
I am. Let's give it a shot and see where it goes.
Okay, well, let's begin with the shocking and grisly finding of the very first body. Mary Ann Nichols, nicknamed Polly, was discovered deceased around 3 a.m. on a Friday, the last day of August, 1888, in Bucks Row, Whitechapel. Nichols had been viciously attacked. Her throat was twice deeply severed, one cut so violent it ripped down to her vertebrae. The 43-year-old had also been stabbed twice in the vagina, multiple times in the abdomen, including a deep, jagged gash which forced her bowels to protrude. This gruesome bodily assault became a signature wound pattern found on all but one victim. Nichols had been married but separated, and her 5 children lived with their father. She was an alcoholic with an extensive shopping list of petty crimes. So, Darcy, let's look at the first photo, which is purported to be Polly Nichols. But I think you'll agree when you see another shot of Polly that this image looks like her. So have a look at our very first photo, Polly Nichols. What do you think or hear or feel about this person?
Well, right away, I love her energy. She's, given everything you just described, she's still a very nice lady.
Okay.
And strange, I know they're saying she was Polly, but I would have thought she went more by Anne.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm picking up.
Okay.
Okay. I would have said she probably was a very hard-working, gentle lady.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it may sound crazy, but also a very religious lady.
Really? Okay. Well, that doesn't sound crazy.
Okay. She may not have gone to church, but I still feel there's that need to have God close to her.
Okay.
Now, I am going to contradict one thing because she is not his first victim. She may be his first recorded victim, but she is not technically his first victim.
And why do you say that?
Because there's this feeling of, well, first of all, there's also a feeling of familiarity to him. Like she's passed him, knowing him, recognizes him. But I feel that with each victim, he got progressively worse, and she's not even his worst.
Okay. But why do you think she's not his first?
Because that's what I keep hearing in my head. She's not his first.
You actually hear those words?
Yeah, she's not his first. That is what I'm hearing.
Okay. Do you get a sense of who the first might have been?
Well, I'm going to do the usual where I think he may have started with animals and progressed up. He definitely has an understanding of biology, so he may have been kicked out of school, of medical school. It's not his first killing.
Oh, okay. So he might have killed animals or something, but not necessarily humans.
That's right.
Okay, well, that's interesting. All right, great. Anything else on that one?
Obviously, for me, a lot of rage attached to it. When I look at her, I think of mother. Okay? So may have been trying to kill his mom.
Okay, the old hate the mother business.
Yep.
That's a pretty perennial issue for a lot of men.
Yeah, but there's a little more to it because she's an older lady.
Yep, she's in her 40s.
Yeah, and at that time, that was really considered old.
Right.
And so that's why I feel it's the mother issue. But I also think it has something, the word rejection keeps popping into my head.
Okay.
So there's a connection to rejection.
And can you tell if it's a rejection from a romantic perspective?
I think it's twofold. I think it is rejection from a mother issue.
Yep.
And rejection from a romance.
Wow. Okay, so let's then go down to next photo, which unfortunately is an illustration, and I highly respect the fact that you may not be able to glean anything from this because it's someone's drawing from a newspaper of the time, but we don't have, see, a picture of the actual crime scene, but this is a newspaper illustration of the discovery of her body. So we have a police officer shining a light on a woman's body lying on a sidewalk. Can you get anything from that?
Well, I'll give the illustrator credit in the fact that he wasn't as graphic as he could have been.
Okay.
Obviously, this is where she died, but she was attacked a little down the road. Like if I was to stand up and walk to my right, she would have been down the road a bit when she first was attacked. Felt like she was running. I feel defensive wounds. Not that there they knew how to fight as much as we do now, but still feel like she knew her killer.
Okay.
Or she recognized there's something safe about the killer.
Something safe?
Yeah. Like I felt like she felt she was safe.
So, for example, he could have been a doctor or a police officer, and that might have been the kind of person that she would be relaxed around.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, cool. The next photo I think you should be able to glean something from. It's at the actual location in Bucks Row where her body was found.
Is it where the two ladies are standing or just down a little bit?
I can't tell you exactly. They just said this is the location, so I really can't say, Darcy, exactly on the sidewalk. You probably could tell me more accurately.
I would say half and half. There's a doorway there, so
Yep.
It's very feasible. She might have been a little bit in the doorway and on the sidewalk.
Oh, okay. Do you get anything?
Put the number 3.
Okay. And do you get anything else from the scene?
When I said that if you were to stand up and walk to your right, so if you went down the road from there where it looks like there might be a horse and buggy or something, it would have started down there.
Okay, and you have a sense of her running from someone.
Well, no, they walked together first.
Oh, okay.
No, she wasn't running. It started down there, like they're walking together, but something happened, and I can feel a push, a shove, and putting my hands up, like trying to defend myself, but that's about all I can get.
Okay. That's a whole lot more than I can get. Okay, cool. Now the next one's going to be a bit disturbing, so I'm warning you. It's a picture of Mary Ann Nichols in death. It's a mortuary shot.
Yeah. Not really picking much up, except I do pick up that sense of fear, a little queasiness in the stomach, but I would say, I know it sounds crazy, but she's not sad, but I feel a little bit of regret, maybe things unfinished.
Right. Okay. And nothing more about the possible individual who attacked her?
Nope.
Okay, so all is quiet in the area for about 7 days, Darcy, until September the 8th, a Saturday, when the butchered body of Annie Chapman, age 47, is found around 6 a.m. on Hanbury Street, which is really only 2 blocks northwest from where Mary Ann Nichols was found. Like Nichols, Chapman's throat had been twice severed and her abdomen viciously sliced. The killer performed a trio of further acts of degradation, laying parts of her stomach on her left shoulder, placing her small intestines onto her right shoulder, and removing her uterus, bladder, and vagina. The London Metropolitan Police Service quickly realized they were up against a very damaged and dangerous individual. Chapman herself was considered quite a sociable and intelligent woman, but sadly, like Nichols, too fond of rum. She had also been married and given birth to 3 children who were not living with her. So now let's have a first look at photo number 5 of Annie Chapman in happier days. It's a wedding shot, her wedding, in 1869. What do you get out of that, Darcy?
Well, first of all, really young. Second, now I understand where the Anne came in, Annie. She looks so, like, I don't want to be here married.
That's what I thought. I wouldn't call it the happiest of wedding pictures.
No. But, I feel like she knows her place. I hate saying that, but it does feel that way.
Okay.
Again, a hard worker, a little disgruntled with life.
Okay, well then let's move on to number 6. This is the location of her murder. It's an old brick row building on Hanbury Street with a door through which both Chapman and her killer went. And I've outlined the door in yellow.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you gather anything from seeing this black and white shot of this row housing.
Well, again, I feel like she felt safe.
Okay.
Okay. So she, again, I mean, I realized with the career choice they had then,
Right.
that, you never knew the same person over and over. But with this, it's more like a security. I keep hearing it, secure and safe. And I don't even feel like, okay, let's call them the John they are. I did not feel like this was a John. I felt like they're talking to someone that they feel safe with. But here's my, oh my God, what if it was a priest?
I don't know. What if it was?
Because that would explain the religious undertone I keep picking up.
So you get the religious undertone with Annie Chapman as well?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, one would certainly think even at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you ran into a fellow who was wearing the white collar and the priest garb, you would feel safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's move into this building, into an entranceway that's taking us from the front to the back where Annie was discovered. See anything in this passage of a black and white shot of a staircase heading up?
Let's see. I would say that it started, like, there's some sort of altercation here. I got to about, where is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stairs up. And I feel like I'm being pulled backwards.
Down the stairs?
Down the stairs.
Okay, so you're being dragged at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, and no sign of any ghost of Annie Chapman.
Actually, no, strangely enough. I would expect it.
You didn't have a sign of a ghost of Marianne Nichols.
No, I didn't.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the next photograph, which is number 8. This is where Annie Chapman's body was found. She was lying parallel to the fence, Darcy, with her head almost touching the rear steps.
Okay. Well, that explains why I feel like the steps had a party to her dying.
Uh-huh.
But she was pulled out of there. Like, she was dragged out.
Was she alive when she was dragged out?
I don't really think so.
Okay.
Now, there is another person here. There's a man. He's around 5'10", average size, top hat, little tail and coat sort of idea.
Mm-hmm.
Got a bit of a mustache. I wonder if he was witness to it.
A witness. Okay. Well, keep that under your hat. We'll deal with that as we go along. That's interesting.
Okay.
So then moving on now to the final photograph. Again, it's a bit gruesome. It's a mortuary shot of Anne Chapman.
Again, this is, to me, a rage against a mother or a sweetheart.
Okay, really?
Yep.
All right. A mother or a sweetheart. Okay, so we're still dealing with, of course, we have a hatred for women, there's no doubt. Well, then she is the second victim, and nothing murderous happened in Whitechapel or Spitalfields for about 22 more days, Darcy. But just as the residents began to let their guard down, events even more shocking and horrifying occurred during the eerie hours before dawn on Sunday, September 30th. 44-year-old Elizabeth Stride, nicknamed Long Liz, became the Ripper's third victim. She was found about 1 o'clock in the morning in a small yard in Whitechapel, about 10 blocks south of where Chapman was found. Stride's throat had been slit by a single deep incision, but strangely enough, there were no other injuries. The reason for this might be because 45 minutes later, the Ripper committed homicide again, this time with greater viciousness than ever before. Catherine Eddowes' body was found a few blocks west. Her throat had been severed and her abdomen slashed open. The killer had laid her intestines over her right shoulder and had taken one kidney and part of her uterus. But this time, the Ripper had savagely attacked the 46-year-old woman's face as well. So it was later thought that Jack the Ripper had been interrupted and unable to do any mutilation to Elizabeth Stride, and so quickly and brutally struck out against the fourth casualty of his insane fury, Catherine Eddowes. So now let's look at the next group of photographs, Darcy. Look at number 10. We have a shot of a very young shot of Elizabeth Stride. A bit blurry. I admit it's not the greatest photo, but wondering if you could gather anything from that.
She actually reminds me of more like a determined person.
Yes.
Where she's going, like even maybe the way she walked. Now, I actually want to say that this was going to be looking like Jack the Ripper. I don't actually think she was a victim of Jack the Ripper. I feel like this is more if she was married or had a lover, this different.
Oh, okay. Well, I can give you a little bit of information on her. It may help. She was originally from Sweden and able to speak several languages. She was 44 years old, had been married and separated, and like the other victims, lived difficult, tumultuous life. She too had an overwhelming penchant for alcohol.
Yeah, but this is different.
And tell me more about how it's different.
This anger towards her is because she did something her husband didn't like.
So you're saying this killing is a personal killing from someone directly targeted to Long Liz, not someone that the Ripper picked out of the street.
She's not as hard looking as the other two were. There's this energy that comes off the other two that, I've been beaten down in life. With her, it was more, she knew what she wanted and she went for it. This is different. There's just a different feel to this one.
Okay. Well, let's look at the next photo, number 11, which is a shot of the row house area where Elizabeth Stride was found dead. Right where that number 11 is written is a little entrance to a little cut through. And she was found in there. Can you get any sense of anything from this photograph?
Well, see, she still haunts this street.
She still haunts this street?
Yeah, there's my difference. She haunts this street. I can see her.
Where is she?
Right at the opening of the gate.
Yep.
And then there's a picture of a man again. He's Caucasian, dark hair. He has a little bit of like a mustache. He's got a knife in his left hand. He's, I'm going to say, maybe, again, 5'10". He's not the same man because this man has like a white shirt and darker trousers, wool trousers. She's wearing, to me, a white dress, maybe a light blue or a pastel-colored dress. She almost looks like she's dressed up to go out.
And the second man is not the same as the one in the other photograph?
No, but if you look over to the window to your left,
yep,
you can see a man's face in the window.
I can see something, but I don't know that I would say it was a man's face.
It's a man's face.
This is the man you're talking about?
Nope, that's a totally different guy. So there's a couple of hauntings going on here.
Okay, so when you say you're seeing the man who's a Caucasian with dark hair, a mustache, and has a knife in his left hand, he's haunting this area?
He's there as well. There's also a little girl there who's reaching up towards him.
Oh, wow.
And I can see Toy or Tom written on the wall above the entrance.
Oh, really?
So, look, and there's a man's face down by the staircase, too. Wow, there's a lot of ghosts around that area.
So you're seeing all kinds of ghost activity in this photograph, but not in any of the earlier ones?
Nope, the other ones, it's almost like the life was extinguished and that's all there was to it. Almost a release of being let go of an obligation. This one, totally different. That's why I'm saying I don't think she's part of his victim pool.
How interesting. Okay. Well, we're going to get now a chance to see, again, a grimmer shot. Elizabeth Stride mortuary photograph. Do you get anything from that pretty sad-looking, disturbing photograph?
Well, alive she would have been beautiful.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you.
I can feel the need to find justice still. So I think she's still looking for her killer. This one's different because remember the other ones I said they felt safe with the person?
Absolutely.
This one was running.
Okay, but you had said that this is probably something more personal, something about possibly a husband or a partner who was not happy with what she did.
Yeah.
So when you say she's still looking, she would know who killed her, right?
Yes, but she's looking for justice.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. Right, justice. She's looking for justice, but she knows who killed her.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. That was really cool. All right. Now we're going to move on to the second woman whose life was taken so viciously that night. Her name is Catherine Eddowes. Have a look at photo number 13 of Catherine in better days. Nicknamed Kate, she was considered a jolly, intelligent woman. She loved singing, had at least 2 partners, and 3 children, and I'm sure you can guess an affinity for alcohol. Can you tell us anything about her, Darcy?
Okay, first impression is sadness.
Sadness.
That's my first thing about her. Beauty. Again, she's in the right age bracket as the other ones. I feel a little lost when I look at her. You know that feeling where you don't feel like you belong anywhere, but you're trying to find a place where you fit in?
Oh, yes, I know that.
Okay, that's what I feel when I look at her.
Okay, well, I'm going to warn you before we look at the next 2 pictures because, as I said, poor Catherine Eddowes was savagely butchered by this insane individual. Actually hesitant to show them, but they're on the internet, so I figured that we could do this. But just so you know, there are going to be photographs of her actual butchered face and her body after the autopsy. Oh, sorry. Before we get there, we're going to see number 14, which is where she was found. Quite close to the fence, which is not really a fence. It looks more like a brick wall, but that's what they're calling a fence here.
Okay. See? Don't feel her spirit there. I would tell you that this was so brutal that she had to leave the scene, like literally flee the scene. Again, there's this sense of, so this guy was left-handed, huh? Do we know that?
We haven't discussed that yet, Darcy. There is controversy about that. I was going to raise it at the end because you did mention that a man had a knife in his left hand. Some believe he was left-handed, and many more say he wasn't, that there isn't necessarily enough evidence, and unfortunately they weren't able to, examine the knife wounds in the manner that they can today, so there is no real definitive evidence on that. However, there is a thought that it could have been a left-hander.
Okay, because I keep seeing a man with a left-hand knife, and I know they did not make left-hand knives then because they thought left-handed people were part of the devil, but I'm looking and I can see, and he had a saw too. So the way the fist is curled around the handle of the saw is a left-handed grip.
Okay, so you're saying the grip was left-handed. How cool.
Yep. I don't feel her, but I can feel the presence of the man. And
Okay.
It's weird because you would think that this guy would have to carry a case to have special harness of some sort to carry this stuff with him.
You would think so. It's possible he carried a case like a doctor. It's also possible, we're talking in the middle of the night. In those days, people wore big, heavy cloaks. You could hide a lot of stuff, I think, under a cloak.
Yeah.
But certainly he had to have some equipment with him.
I haven't gotten to the pictures of her and what happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
My impression is that he was really angry with her. And I don't know I don't feel that the other lady screamed. So maybe because you mentioned mutilation of the face, maybe he mutilated it because she made a noise. He didn't expect her to call out.
So you're saying then that Marianne Nichols and Annie Chapman, and if we set aside Elizabeth Stride for the moment, those 2 women didn't scream out?
I am not hearing them scream out, but this one I can hear scream.
So the first 2 might have been caught unawares, knifed across the throat, and therefore practically dead and unable to speak, whereas Catherine might have seen him, or he might not have been as quick to slice her throat.
That's right.
Okay, so that's a good reason for him mutilating the face that we haven't experienced before.
Well, see, I feel she put up a struggle, not like the other 2.
And she paid for it.
Yep.
Yeah, and when you look at the next 2 photographs, Darcy, you will see how much the poor woman paid.
Yeah.
So number 15, very disturbing shot of her damaged, ravaged face.
It is. And no, I'm not picking anything up.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one, which is another very disturbing shot of her after the postmortem. Do you get anything from that?
No.
Okay, let's move on. So that's Poor Catherine Eddowes, really. But you see, Darcy, historically, it's always been thought that Ripper attacked Elizabeth Stride, was interrupted in his attack, wasn't able to undertake all the mutilations that he wanted to, and in an even greater fit of rage, ran into Catherine Eddowes and took it out on her. But you're saying that's not the story at all.
No, there were two separate attacks. Like, one lady was attacked by another person. He wouldn't have waited 45 minutes to find someone else. Those streets, there were girls out all the time. He wouldn't have walked so far away. Someone would have crossed his path before he got to Catherine.
Yep, that makes good sense. I've thought that myself.
These were two different people. One was a love thing, and the other one was a rage.
Okay, and the same rage that took down Marianne Nichols and Annie Chapman.
Yes.
So can you actually feel that's the same person here doing at least these three murders?
Yes, I can. That's why I'm saying that Catherine wasn't it.
Okay, wow, that's fascinating. That's new, I think. So we move on to our last victim. It's a 25-year-old young woman named Mary Jane Kelly. She was intelligent, attractive, and as her name suggests, Irish-born. Tragically, the famous luck of her native land ran out. She was the only victim found indoors. She was discovered in her own bed in the middle of the morning over a month later on November 9th. Her injuries are the most horrific, Darcy, probably due to the Ripper having the luxury of time hidden from prying eyes in Kelly's own tiny room, which was just a few blocks south of where the first victim, Marianne Nichols, died. Like Nichols, Chapman, and Eddowes, and I'll point out very deliberately, not Elizabeth Stride, Kelly's body had been extensively mutilated, her throat severed to the bone. Our maniacal murderer had sliced open her abdomen, placing parts of her body in various spots nearby in the room. A couple of new disturbing twists in this homicide, though. Mary Jane Kelly's young face was shredded beyond recognition of any sort, and her heart was missing. Unfortunately, we don't have a photograph of this young gal when she was alive, but we have a contemporary sketch, so I'll let you have a look at photo number 17.
Okay.
She looks a lot older than 25 from my perspective of this sketch, but it might just be the artistic rendition. Can you divine anything about Kelly or about the Ripper from this illustration?
Well, I'm going to agree with you that she looks older than she should be. And I believe this is the woman that the Ripper was killing in addition to his mother.
So explain that a little bit.
I think he might have had a love affair with her. Feel like she got pregnant, aborted his baby, and that's what caused him to twist because his mother gave him up. That's what I'm picking up by just looking at her photo. And I feel that he just went over the edge, and the lady who killed mother and her at the same time, and I think she banished him from her place because of his violence. But, you know, like anyone who thinks they're in love, she allowed him in to explain himself.
Okay, wow, you said an awful lot there, so I'm just going to go back. First, you said this was a very personal murder targeted to Mary Jane Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay, then you said you feel that the man who did this had been given up at birth by his mother.
Yep.
How do you get that?
It's what pops in.
And when it pops in, what is it popping in?
Little pictures, like, you know, the little scenario of leaving the baby on the doorstep of the church.
You're kidding, really?
Nope. The fact that I'm pretty sure Miss Kelly came from an affluent family in Ireland, so I'm not 100% sure. I mean, they're pegging her as a prostitute, but I'm not sure that really was the case.
Okay.
But I do feel like she lost it, like she aborted a child, so that is why I think it was his. Because they rage towards that of being abandoned and then having your own child taken away from you before you actually can see it. That's what it feels.
Right. So that would give credence to the reason why he attacked women's abdomens and vaginas and took out their uterus.
Yeah. And the fact he took her heart, like he worked up to his rage. He took her heart because she broke his.
So you're saying Jack the Ripper had a relationship with Mary Jane Kelly, impregnated Mary Jane Kelly. Mary Jane Kelly lost or aborted the child. Do you know which?
I'd like to think she lost it.
Okay, lost the child, he was so enraged that this happened, and of course it's an echo of his being abandoned as a child from his own mother, that he went out and started to murder women and built himself up to finally murdering Mary Jane Kelly and taking her heart?
Yeah, because she should have been the first victim.
One would think so.
So he was covering his trail as to who he was going after.
Do you think he was that cunning?
I know he was a dumb man, but the fact that she barred him from seeing her, I think between the loss of the child, the barring him, saying, get out, you're not worth it sort of idea, I think that's what tipped him.
So if we were able to do some research on Mary Jane Kelly's life in Spitalfields and Whitechapel, and with whom she had relationships, we might be able to narrow down who the real Jack the Ripper is.
Very likely.
We might even be doing it tonight, but that's the first time I've thought that's actually an avenue of evidentiary trail that we could follow around.
Yeah, but here's the interesting part.
It's all been interesting.
I think he came from an affluent family too, okay? I feel like either he worked for them or he was taken in by an affluent family, because the priest is still in the peripheral vision. The priest is connected.
You see the priest in this shot?
Well, not the priest per se, but I see the image of the priest. So my going back and thinking about how people felt safe with him is maybe a priest gave him to a family that wanted children but couldn't have them. And because of the nobility that's connected to it, because the word nobility here is connected now, that maybe he dressed as the priest.
Okay, so why did you come out of the air with the word nobility?
Because that's exactly what I saw printed across my forehead.
Oh, cool. I wish I could have that happen.
Oh, I could give you some instructions on how to do it.
I will take you up on that sometime.
Think of it like a slide projector, okay? You know the old ones where you click it and it would come into place, be a little fuzzy, you had to adjust the dial to make it more prominent? That's exactly how I see these images.
Neat. Very neat. Okay. Is that all you've got for us from this illustration? It's an astounding amount.
Yeah, and I think it might be connected to some of the other ones that you may have here.
Okay, so then let's go on to photo 18, which is a shot of the actual exterior of Mary Jane Kelly's little apartment. And in that window, a man saw her in the middle of the morning in the bed, ravaged, attacked, destroyed, dead.
Now, do you have the image up by any chance?
I do. I'm looking right at it.
Okay. I'd like you to look at the window farthest to the left.
Okay.
The pane, right in the center, there's 1, 2, 3 panes.
Correct.
Do you see the lady's face?
Are you talking in the most left-hand pane?
Not the one with the white on it.
That's
the one right next to it. Well, mind you, there's a face there too. But do you see the lady's face looking out?
No, I see just little shimmers of white on the far left pane and on the far right pane kind of going across. And up top I see a little bit on the right, but no faces, sorry.
Oh my God, there's a face there, and if you go over to the doorway, the tall one that looks like it goes down a hallway,
yes,
there's a face right up on the right-hand corner.
Oh, I can see now a little bit. If I really push myself to imagine, I might see a nose. It's like a semi-profile, a nose, a chin, and an eye.
And that's way too tall to be a man.
Yeah, really tall.
Okay, so we've got two ghosts going on here.
Neither of them is Mary Jane?
Oh yeah, Mary's in the window. She's looking out. She will be trapped in that room.
She's in the middle window of the 3 panes in the bottom of the left-hand side?
Yeah.
Not the center, the main shot of the 4 panes of window in the little rectangular window right up front.
Nope, she's in the main window.
Wow, poor Mary Jane.
Definitely, no pun here, but I was going to say, I'd kill to walk this street section and find out what I could pick up.
Yeah, I'd kill to be right behind you doing that. Wow. Okay, well, I'm going to warn you now. You've already seen some pretty disturbing photographs, but this one is really, unfortunately, terrible. It's going to be a shot of Mary Jane Kelly's ravaged and dismembered body in situ. So in other words, right inside those windows in that little room, okay?
Yeah.
Number 19.
Yeah. See the man's face on the wall.
Where?
Above the bedpost. The nose, the mouth, one eye, and it's like there's all this anger inside of him. I see a priest on the other wall, so they must have, and I see angels. So I would tell you, even though she died so viciously, that she was lifted from this being.
Well, I'm going to have to ask you, if this is the first time you've ever mentioned angels. How do you know what an angel is?
Oh, I can see the wings.
They really have wings?
Oh, yes, they really have wings. And 2:45 a.m. She died at 2:45 a.m.
Really? She wasn't discovered until about 10:15 the next morning.
Nope, she died at 2:45 a.m. So, yeah, that's right. She was dead already 7 hours before they found her.
Yeah.
Now, here's an interesting thing. I have the candle, which represents to me Christ's light, okay? But I have an image of a crown, but the kind of crown that would be on a policeman's uniform. Oh, her father must have already been dead because he's there to meet her.
Wow. You're just flying along here like the angels. Okay, wait. You said you had a candle?
A candle, which for me represents God's, Jesus' light.
Light, okay.
Okay. And then I have a crown, the kind of crown that you find on a uniform's badge.
Gotcha.
A policeman's badge. And then I have, I don't know if it's Stefan, but I am hearing that name.
Okay. Well, let me just pull aside a little bit here because I'm just so curious to how this happens in your head. When you say you have this stuff, does it come one at a time, and then, for example, the crown, you can't get that image again, it's gone, or can you recall it?
Oh, no, it's on the wall of the kill room.
Oh, and is the candle on the wall as well?
Yep.
Oh, okay. See, I'm not seeing anything but grimy gray.
Yep. You can see 2:45. You can see the candle. You can see what looks like a crown or a bow, or I'm putting it to be a crown, even though it looks like I see him. And then if I go over, I see the man's eyes and stuff. And she was a religious lady. Okay. And I can see it all on the wall.
Wow. And why was she lifted up by angels?
Because of the pain. They wanted to remove her from the segregation of the pain.
Why didn't they remove the other gals?
Well, they did, because I just didn't see them. But the fact that their souls aren't there, except for Catherine.
Right. No, Elizabeth,
sorry. Because their souls aren't there, that means they've been lifted.
Oh, see, this is a new revelation on your part we haven't heard before.
Okay. The reason I can still see her in the window is because even though she's lifted, there's that memory.
Wow. Okay, that's really amazing, Darcy. So now we've seen what the world thought were the 5 victims of Jack the Ripper. You're saying we're seeing 4 victims of Jack the Ripper and 1 victim of someone else. At the top, I said we had 4 suspects that we're going to discuss. Now, there are many, many more suspects that have been brought forward and put aside and brought forward and put aside over the decades. I've chosen the ones that continued to meet the basic requirements. They resided locally at the time. They had a sufficient reputation of misogyny to help create police interests in them. Plus, and for our investigative style, of course, most importantly, there's some sort of a photograph that we could look at. So I mentioned earlier, we're not spending any time on clues or the police investigation. We're just going with the evidence you're giving us, Darcy. So before we talk about the specific suspects, I'm just going to recap a little bit, if I can remember the notes here, of what you've said you've witnessed about this man. We'll set Elizabeth Stride aside, if you can. We'll focus on the Jack the Ripper character. You're saying that the women who saw him felt safe around him?
Yep.
So they weren't afraid when they first encountered him?
No.
Okay, so that's indicative of them either knowing him, of him having a very open and honest and friendly looking face at 3 o'clock in the morning, of him possibly wearing some kind of uniform that gives a sense of trust, like a police officer, a clergyman, a physician, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. You also said this man has an inner rage towards his mother.
Yeah.
He has a feeling of rejection twice over, one from being rejected by his mother, and you say he not only was rejected he was rejected literally in the fact that he was given up for adoption at birth. You also say he was rejected in a romance. Okay.
Yep.
Then you said that he had a relationship, intimate, romantic, with Marianne Kelly, that he'd impregnated her, that she perhaps lost the baby or the baby disappeared some way or the other, and he was so upset and so enraged about it that he went on this killing spree, finally culminating in attacking most viciously Mary Jane Kelly and taking her heart with him.
Yeah.
You also said he was left-handed.
Yeah.
Can you describe him as a person? You described a couple of men before, but I don't know which one, so I'd like you to describe Jack the Ripper to me.
Well, okay, at least 5'10". He could be a little shorter, maybe a little taller, but I don't think much. Dark hair. There is facial hair, so mustache, goatee. He looks aristocratic or noble.
Okay.
All right. And when I say that, he's clean. Okay, there was a difference in class.
Sure.
The being able to change your clothes, wash, and everything.
Yep.
He likes his alcohol.
Okay, everybody does.
Yep, and he likes his smokes.
Okay.
But I also wonder if he did opium.
That certainly was common in those days, in that area in particular.
Yeah, because I get a feeling of that. I've never tried it, but there's this fuzzy feeling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And are you linking the fuzzy feeling to opium because you know from your own understanding of the world that opium was common in London in that kind of time frame?
No, because I've never really studied London in that time frame. And it's not so much a fuzzy feeling. It's like this, okay, I'm allergic to opiates, okay?
Right.
When they give me something at the hospital to dull the pain, it's normally an opiate.
Right.
And that is the feeling I'm getting, like the kind of I'm spaced out, not quite sure what I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
And even though I think he knew what he was doing, and I think the reason for the gaps is maybe he drowned everything in that haze, that opiate haze that they get, where they're not really here, so there's really no cognitive memory of what has happened around them. It's like taking, you know the pill they give you for the dentist nowadays?
Yep.
Okay, it's like that. You wake up and you don't remember anything.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, well, before we actually show you the photos of the four men, I'm going to show you some handwriting, which is believed to be that of Jack the Ripper.
All right.
So look at photograph number 20. A little difficult to read the handwriting, so I've typed in the bottom of the photograph that what he actually has written there. So if you would mind looking at that and reading that to us, and tell us what you think.
Okay, just 1 second.
Yeah, take some time.
All right. So is this the same postcard? There's two of them.
Yeah, it's front and back. This is a postcard that was sent to the police.
Okay, so it says, beware, there are two women I want here. They are bastards, and I mean to have them. My knife is still in good order. It is a student's knife. And I hope you like the half a kidney. I am Jack the Ripper. And then the next one says, well, obviously he's had some form of education to be able to write.
Yep.
I send you half the kidney I took from one woman, preserved it for your...
T'other piece.
Okay. I fried and ate it. It was very nice.
Right.
I may send you the bloody knife that took it out if you only wait a while longer. Signed, Catch Me If You Can. Is Mr. Lisk, is it Lisker? Lisk?
Lusk. I believe his name is Lusk.
Is he the detective?
No, he's actually a head of a vigilante committee in the area at the time.
Oh.
Why Jack sent him this letter. It's famously known as the From Hell letter because of what is written at the top on the right-hand corner.
So he must have learned how to spell phonetically.
Yes, exactly. So I wouldn't say he was much of a reader.
No, but he did know how to spell or how to write.
He knew how to write, but he didn't know how to spell. You know, in those days, they might not have spelled everything the same way we do anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, anything from either of those?
Just one thick cookie. Wait a minute. So he wrote on the front and the back, right?
Of the postcard, yes, and of the Be From Hell letter, we don't have necessarily the envelope. There must have been an envelope, but we just have the actual note.
Hey, you remember what I said? I saw the crown? If you look at the postcard, that's exactly what I was seeing. I thought it was a crown.
Oh, you're seeing that? That's the heraldic symbol, I think, of the monarchy. And if we saw it, that we could read it, it would be the two lions, the two rampant lions on either side and the crown in the middle. And I think that's the symbol for the monarchy.
And that is what I was seeing on the wall.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, that's fun. We'll deal with that. I mean, it's interesting, but it's also fun. We're going to deal with that as we go. So let's look at our first possible suspect. Okay.
Right.
It's kind of blurry, and I don't even know if it's a photograph. I think it was a photograph at one time, but it may not give you much. I'll let you have a look at it, and then you tell me what you think about this guy.
No.
No. You want to think about that?
Nope.
Okay. I'll just tell you about him, though. His name was James Kelly. He was no relation to Mary Jane. He stabbed his wife in the neck to death, was considered insane, committed to an asylum but escaped in early 1888. So was Johnny on the Spot in London's East End. His claim to Jack fame is that some experts claim he's perfectly matches the killer's profile as they would profile him today at the FBI.
No.
Okay, look at the next photograph.
Yes.
Yes?
Absolutely.
This is Jack the Ripper?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be. This is Aaron Kominski, Polish. He was admitted to a lunatic asylum in 1891, had auditory hallucinations. He was paranoid about others feeding him, and he refused to bathe. His main claim to Jack the Ripper notoriety is a tenuous and contested scientific test that purports to have found his DNA on Catherine Eddowes' shawl.
I'm saying yes.
You're saying Aaron Kominski is the Jack the Ripper?
Yes.
Okay, well, I got to tell you, Darcy, that you're not alone. He is, by many, considered to be Jack the Ripper. I don't know if he had any relations to nobility or highly educated, but he's definitely one of the forefront of who Jack the Ripper might have been.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to show you the next couple just for the heck of it. The next one, is photo number 24, is actually a photograph, but it's very blurry. I don't know if you can see anything from that. The guy's a bit older.
Yeah, no.
Okay, his name was Charles Leshmere. He was a meat car driver, and he actually discovered the first victim. So when you were talking about, I think it was our second victim, Annie Chapman, you said the guy might be a witness. I was wondering if it was going to be Charles Leshmere.
It's very likely it is.
Okay, well, he discovered the first victim, Marianne Nichols, and supposedly his Johnny Jack on the Spot fame is that someone else came upon the scene quickly and they feel he wasn't able to continue with the job, but that he was actually the murderer and pretended he was the one who discovered her.
No.
Okay, lastly, number 25. This guy looks a bit of a kind of a comic character.
Yeah, but he could shave that mustache. The answer here is no again.
Okay, well, this guy's name was Francis Tumblety. He was a homosexual con man. He earned a fortune in North America as an Indian herb doctor. He hated women, was connected but never prosecuted for the death of a patient. And his Ripper claim to fame was a bizarre collection of human wombs.
Oh, that is bizarre.
That is bizarre. Okay, so you're going back holding firm with photo number 23, Aaron Kominski.
Yes, and contrary to what they say, he used to reside around close to nobility, was clean-shaven at one point, and I would tell you 23.
You would say 23. Wow.
Yeah, there's just something about him. There's the way he looks, his eyes, the energy around him says murderous rage.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's very cool, Darcy. I think you've cracked it because, as I say, he's definitely thought of by many as to being Jack the Ripper. I mean, that's obviously remarkable that you've got that, but I think it's really, really interesting that you have set aside Elizabeth Stride as a victim of Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, I feel it's different. There's a different feel to it, and she's still there.
Yeah, that's so interesting that she's still there, and that means something to you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was a fascinating episode, Darcy, of going down the gritty streets of Whitechapel and Spitalfields in London's East End in 1888. You identified a lot of interesting elements that I don't know that are known about the Jack the Ripper case, and certainly was, for me, really, really fun. We'd love to just go to Whitechapel and Spitalfields and wander on a Jack the Ripper tour with you. Boy, we'd have a grand time.
Me too, but here's the thing I'd like to consider, because the guy 23 that I said, that's the guy,
Yes?
and he went into a psych ward.
Yes.
I'm curious what they buried in that psych ward that he killed.
So you think he's murdered somebody in the psych ward?
Yes, I do. Feels like it. And they're just disappeared.
Was this before or after the Ripper murders?
Probably before.
One other thing you had said at the beginning, that this wasn't his first rodeo.
No, it wasn't.
So he was murdering before he met these 4 women, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. Thanks, Darce.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Seeing Dead People. Whatever's going on in Darcy's head, I think is so cool and astonishing. We'd love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. So please, shoot us an email to info@radiosydney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes of Seeing Dead People will emerge on the first Saturday of every month, and will also be available every Saturday night at 8 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10 a.m., both Pacific Standard Time. Seeing Dead People will also be available as a downloadable podcast online at radiosydney.ca for your convenience. Cool news! Seeing Dead People is now a podcast on YouTube. Just search for Nicola Furlong Mysteries, and you will find 3 podcasts of videos dedicated to Seeing Dead People. One for our actual complete episodes, another for Darcy's fascinating answers to our listeners' questions about her psychic process, and a third with teasers highlighting each episode. Thanks so much for listening to Seeing Dead People. I really dig researching, writing, and communicating with Darcy and her otherworldly contacts. So until the next time, remember, Seeing Dead People is a blast, with goosebumps guaranteed.
This has been a program of Radio Sydney.